Good morning, everybody. This is Kate Warnock coming to you live from the 2017 AHIP Institute and Expo. We are here with our first guest, and I can't imagine a better way to open our interviews that will be streaming live to you for the next 3 days than Dr. Farzad Mostashari. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
We're glad to have you back. We had you last year, so
Yes.
It's great to have a return guest. So Dr. Mostashari, you are the CEO and founder of Aledade, and I know you just came from a session this
Yes.
morning. Maybe let's just start with a little recap of what you had to share with your audience.
Yeah, the session was around how do we get physicians to engage and to lead on this transformation from volume to value, and how do we get payers and providers on the same side of the table instead of in an adversarial relationship, both of us working together for what's best for patients,
Right.
what's best for society, and what's good for the docs. So we now at Aledade, we work exclusively with independent physicians, helping keep them independent and coach them up, train them up, give them the tools, the support they need to really lead this transformation. So we're now in 15 states. We have 1,000 primary care physicians, about 300,000 lives in risk contract, about $2.5 billion a year in total medical cost that we are managing, and doing it by really giving patients the kind of care that you would want for your mom.
Right. That's a good way to put it. Well, you know, I have to ask you, what frustrates you most about the fee-for-service model?
Oh, it's my mortal enemy. It's my nemesis.
Yes.
So people say oftentimes, like, who are your competitors? And I say my competitor is fee-for-service.
Right.
It's continuing to do the status quo, this really toxic reimbursement system that has all the wrong incentives, the misalignment between payers and purchasers, and in many cases patients,
Right.
And the physicians. And it's invisible. What I hate most about the fee-for-service system is that it's invisible. It's the air we breathe. It's the water that you swim through, that you can't even see it anymore, because every single part of the health system has been optimized for that fee-for-service billing, and people who are participants in that system don't even see it anymore. That's what drives me crazy about it. And I think it's like when we work with our practices and all of a sudden they think about, like, oh, if I saw that patient who's sick at 4 o'clock on a Friday, instead of sending them to the emergency room, like, that's a $600 office visit. What?
Right.
That is mind altering. That is eye opening, and that's what we love to do.
Well, so let's take it back. You mentioned, the kind of care that you would want your mother to receive. Yeah. Let's talk about what is the value of this, the new way,
Yes.
the new incentives for the consumer. And let me ask you too, do they see the value clearly enough? You were just saying that fee-for-service is practically ambient, and here you are swimming upstream. Yeah. Tell me how you're trying to change that dynamic.
We're swimming downstream a bit, but we're trying to get out of the water and into the air. It is really important for us to be able to speak compellingly to patients about why this is better, right? And here's what a patient in one of our primary care practices experiences. If they go to the emergency room, their doctor's practice is going to call them.
Yeah.
And they're going to say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of people in the emergency room are going to end up bouncing back to the emergency room for that same thing. So, First of all, most people never experience that. We had one doc who actually called 2 patients in 1 week while they're in the emergency room. Like, "Are you okay? I'm worried about you." Right? So your primary care doc will be more informed about what's going on with you. When you come to see them, they will already know a lot of the stuff that you hope that they do. When you show up at a specialist, the specialist is not going to say, "Why are you here?"
So you're putting and you're putting humanity back into healthcare, and you're also allowing the physicians, no doubt, they don't want to have to go through the drudgery of the paperwork and making the patient feel like they're a number. It really sounds like you're enabling personalized care.
I don't want to take too much credit for it. The people who are doing that personalized care are the amazing primary care docs who are out there every day, who have that relationship with them. And the last thing we want to do is come between them and that relationship with the patients. But if anything, what we want to do is we want to strengthen that relationship by giving the doc incentives to spend more time with the patients who need it the most, to extend their connection to the patient beyond just the 0.001% of the time that they're in an office visit with a patient. So having care, we help the practices hire care managers who can call mom or grandma at home and keep tabs on them and help them connect into the primary care doc. So more access, more information, and the right incentives.
All right. Well, let's talk about this more information. Here we are. It's early June. Apple is hosting its web development conference right now. And no doubt there's going to be a whole new stream of digital health apps. All right, can't help resist. You were the former head of the ONC,
yes.
Right? And with your expertise, Dr. Mostashari, when are we going to get to a tipping point where there's enough digital health apps? Are we going to kind of exhaust the consumer with choices and maybe negate the value that these new apps might have?
I think like any technology, you kind of underestimate how much effect it's going to have over the long run, but you overestimate it in the short run, right?
Okay.
And there are all these apps, and people are like, "Oh my God, the app revolution!" And okay, there's a lot of skepticism that's appropriate to say, like, look, it's really going to be still a lot of times like the technology that we use the most was invented 100 years ago. It's called the telephone. You know,
right?
That's how a lot of at least Medicare patients want to get their information and their connection. But I do think that over the long run, if this thing succeeds, and you said earlier, you're like, what is this?
I want to know what the button was. Yeah.
This is the blue button, and it's the concept that people should be able to get their own data.
You're a champion of that. Everyone who can check your Twitter feed, Dr. Farzad.
It's my pin tweet.
Would see how important that is.
That to me is the game changer around these apps, is for me to be able to have all of my medical information in the context of my life. Let me give you just one little thought experiment. I was sitting in my office the other day, and I got a little notification on my phone, on my Android phone, that said, if you're going to bike to the airport for your flight, you need to leave now. Turned out I'd forgotten I had a flight.
Thank you, Android.
Thank you, Android. But what did it have to know? Right? I hadn't set a reminder.
Right.
It knew where I was.
Right.
It knew that I usually like to bike.
That's pretty impressive.
Right?
Yeah.
It knew, based on an email that I'd received, that I have a flight leaving at this time. It knew that that flight was not delayed. Right? It took all of that and it turned it into an actionable alert that really saved my bacon that day.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Why can't we have that same sort of presence that says, okay, I know what your medical record is because you just got an email, a secure email, or you know what, if patients want to say, like, just send it to me, like every time you go to the doctor's office, send me the email, that platform can help me put in the context of my life. What do we need to do that? We need actually privacy guideposts. And people often feel like, like having regulations and guidelines and rules around this is going to hinder innovation. Absolutely disagree. What the industry, what Apple needs, what Google needs, what Amazon needs, in order to help people really engage with this information, is knowing that they're in the guidelines. And right now, for non-covered entities, we don't have those privacy guidelines.
Right.
So from a policy point of view, I think that that could be a game changer.
Do you think that's coming anytime soon? Because I know data privacy and everything.
Know.
Yeah, don't want to comment, Tom.
Don't know.
It's a big theme here at AHIP. We're going to have a lot of speakers addressing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it.
But one thing that there's no privacy barrier to is every plan giving their patients access to be able to download all of their claims information to whatever format they want it.
I have to ask a follow-up question, because I've had this conversation, maybe even with you in the past. Do you think consumers are ready to receive that amount of information?
I think they are.
Not to have a paternalistic kind of opinion, but could it be overwhelming? And is it actionable in the way that they receive it, the way you're mentioning with the alert?
So Medicare started doing this, and now any senior can go and download all their claims data, and it's a bunch of text that makes no sense. And there are tons of apps that'll help you understand who your mom's doctors are, what are the meds that she's on, what are the diagnoses that she's had, what are the procedures she's had.
So it's not
it's not the data on its own. It's data plus the app platform.
Right, okay, and that's something that you were saying, so if I have a caregiver, I have a mother that's a few states away, I'd be able to access that.
That's right.
Well, that's a big step ahead, isn't it? I've got one more question for you. So here at AHIP, there's going to be some conversation around a healthcare moonshot. And
the moonshots.
The moonshots, we've heard, Vice President Biden and the cancer moonshot.
Yeah.
Give me your opinion on moonshots in healthcare.
Yeah. So, look, as folks can probably tell, I'm a skeptical optimist. So I'm skeptical of moonshots, right? The idea that we're going to pour a lot of time and money into something and it's going to change some of the fundamental dynamics. If I could pick a moonshot for this industry, it would be around quality measurement.
Tell me why.
We know that if we're going to move from volume to value, we need to be able to measure quality.
Yes.
Our current quality measurement systems are, let's face it, broken. There's been a real loss of trust and faith between practicing physicians and the quality measurement universe, where they don't feel like the quality measures that the whole enterprise, the recording of it, the reporting of it, has anything to do with actually improving care for their patients.
I've heard they're almost like proxies to value. It's really not the same thing.
A lot of check the box, a lot of documentation, a lot of burden. So I would love to have a moonshot where we all get together and we say, how can we use the information that's already in the electronic health records? I'm seeing patients, I'm recording their blood pressure, I have their lab values, I know their diagnoses, I know their medications. Just use that data. Don't ask me to do anything more. Can we just use that data that's routinely collected as a part of delivering healthcare to measure the quality of care adequately? That would be a moonshot I could get behind.
I think that Dr. Farzad Mostashari should head up that moonshot. That he's perfectly equipped for that, given your background, your connections. But you're such a gracious guest for us here today. Farzad, thank you so much for joining us here in the Guidewell Insights Lounge. So great seeing you. My name is Kate Warnock. Please keep watching. We're going to be up soon with another interview. You're the best.